to buy one from one of their manufacturers.
We will call meeting to order, Board of Selectmen, Wolfeboro, January 22nd, 2020.
Right.
Any need for non-public tonight?
Mr. Chairman, we do under RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, lowercase e, pending litigation.
Okay. Consideration of minutes, January 2nd. Have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
January 8th.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple changes. The first one is on the first page, first large paragraph from the bottom, second line. I would like of and I'd like a temporary event permit in there. Page 15. The 1, 2, 3, third paragraph down, second line. The issue is we have not addressed, should be put in and take, scratched out, come to.
I have a change also on page 13, on the 8th paragraph. As Mr. Harriman stated, the traffic signs, I'd like to cross out the word traffic and put blinking speed signs. And then after the word signs, add in that show the speed you're traveling, and continue on with the rest of the sentence, help people become aware of their speed.
I think I have another one on 19. On page 19, second paragraph, Ms. Murray stated that there was $25,000 from the taxpayer, and then I inserted that was used for the feasibility study. And that's all I have.
Okay, you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Amended.
accept it as amended.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the January
You don't have
15th.
Yeah, I don't either.
You either? No.
Not I.
Okay. We'll go to public hearings then.
Let's do that.
Temporary event permits, Families in Transition, New Horizon, Hope House to host a 5K run on August 6, 2012, be 2020.
Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Michelle Casali, and I'm with Families in Transition New Horizons, which operates Hope House, and we're looking for permission to have our 4th annual 5K walk run, which benefits our organization. We're looking to have it on August 6th, starting at the Foss Field area and using the Cotton Valley Rail Trail, and we're looking forward to having it again this year. I had one comment, if I could, on the application. I noticed a discrepancy on our end. In page 5, which talks about the whole event, I had asked for setup to begin between 1 and 3, and on the front page of the application, by mistake, I put 2:30 because we found that last year it took us a lot longer to set the course up in terms of walking the whole 5K and putting signs. So if we can have access to at least the trail at, beginning at 1 o'clock, that would be terrific. But we wouldn't set up in the park till closer to 2:30, 3 o'clock, and the event starts later in the afternoon, 5.
Okay, anybody want to speak for or against? Thank you. Board? We want to make a motion?
I'll move that we grant a temporary event permit to Families in Transition, New Horizons / Hope House to hold a 5K run on August 6, 2020 from 1 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. on the Bridge Falls Path, Cotton Valley Trail, and Foss Field.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Okay, next is All Saints Episcopal Church to host summer fair at 258 South Main Street, All Saints Church parking lot, July 18th, 2020 to July 19th, 2020 from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Good evening. My name is Paul Dostey. I'm 34 Friar Tuck Way here in Wolfeboro, and I'm here representing the All Saints Church for our 59th annual church fair for July 18th, as you mentioned. And that's about, I guess, all I have to say about it. I'm seeking your approval for that this evening.
Anybody have any questions? Anybody wish to speak in favor or against? Okay. Will you have somebody make a motion?
I'd like to do that. Move to approve temporary event permit application for All Saints Episcopal Church to host the summer fair at 258 South Main Street, All Saints Church parking lot on July 18th, 2020, July 19th, 2020, from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman, it says here that we're still going to need an insurance certificate. You usually give it to us.
I did turn it in. I came in the next
Okay.
day and
It
gave you
isn't in
a...
our packet. Okay.
Yeah, it should be in your packet there.
Okay. Thank you.
I saw a note somewhere on that, Linda. Somewhere in here. Yep. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next is our bulk vote, which is weekly manifests, property tax abatements or refunds, intent to cut, only disabled tax deferral, exceptions, and raffle permits.
I'll make a motion to approve the bulk vote items A through F as shown on the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have no appointments. New business. We have a Cate Park wedding request.
Good evening.
Hi.
How you
Scott
doing?
Sharby, this is Taylor Gagnon, representing my daughter Leah Sharby. We're requesting access to Cate Park for a wedding ceremony, September 19th. You know, looking to have access to the park from 2 to 5. The ceremony will be fairly short, 20 minutes to a half an hour, starting at around 4 o'clock. Wanted to request that we would be able to use benches instead of chairs due to the fact that it's going to be a fairly short event. And we will need electric just for the speakers and some music or a DJ for a quick song after. That's pretty much it. And we requested parking, you know, for the cars that are going to be here, but I know they can park on the main street. And we're having the event at the Pickering House. So we're, you know, they obviously work with us to have that all taken care of. So
that has to be open to everybody who wants to come.
the wedding, that would be super if people want to come and watch, and that would be awesome. It's a great
Including the Pickering House? Can we come to that too? That's a different discussion. I got that.
But we will have a few elderly folks, so although we're going to have benches, would request that we possibly could have maybe like 25 chairs just in the front to make it easier, more comfortable for them, but that's pretty much it.
Mr. Chairman, can you give us a layout of that at some point when you decide, so we have some kind of a...
Oh, sure.
That
And
would-
we did some research, and I think the town would prefer to have minimal kind of foot traffic and, you know, heavy chairs and items on the grass. So we could certainly do a sketch or something, but, you know, if it'll be something around like maybe a couple rows of chairs, or we don't even have to do the chairs, but I'm just thinking that would be a little bit more comfortable for some of the elderly folks.
Just for the rec department to have, so that they know where you're going to set stuff up.
Okay. Yeah. So if you'd like, I mean, we can do a sketch or a plan.
Yeah, when you kind of figure it all out and
Okay,
do it,
yeah.
it would be nice for us to know, and everybody would know what it was,
Sure.
the area you were going to use and how many chairs and how it's all fitting in.
Yeah, and I believe, you know, weather permitting, I mean, we're not planning on having any tarps or anything like that, no tents. So if it rains, we talked about that, there might be a few umbrellas, but, you know, they'll plan on having the ceremony on the front steps of the gazebo, but if the weather's bad, they'll be underneath the roofs.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Any other questions?
I do. I had asked Amy about insurance, you know, an event insurance. You can get those very simply, but it's the liability for the town, and she had checked on with Primax, and it was recommended that we do that. So I think I would like to have a one-day certificate. You
I
can
mean,
get those. Those are
Do
very.
you have an insurance company that you would prefer, or can we do that like
No,
through State Farm, or?
Yeah, whatever you can get, right?
So I think you have a document, or we have a document from our carrier, Primex.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, I'm not sure we would be in the business of saying, hey, this is our insurance.
Yeah, I hear you.
We don't want to do that.
Okay.
But maybe if we could provide you the copy, because it looks like a public document, provide a copy of the document to you, and then you let us know what the one-day insurance policy for liability would be.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have Amy reach out to you with a copy of our insurance requirements.
Okay, that would be awesome.
It should be de minimis, but we're checking a box here. We want to make sure we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion then?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the use of Cate Park wedding on 9/19/20 from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Cate Park,
Subject to insurance.
subject to insurance and a sketch coming in for the layout of the chairs and benches.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll wait to hear from, wait to hear from your, we have the contact information.
We'll hear something by the end of the week.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, next is discussion of revenue expenditures.
Congratulations, by the way, in advance.
Thank you.
There he comes.
Good evening. Troy Neff, Finance Director. So I'm here to share with you the numbers as the end of December of 2019, and then give you a quick update of items that are occurring in the finance office that we're kind of excited about for 2020. So at the end of December, the general fund, obviously at December our target should have been 100% for expenditure. For the general fund, we were at 98.864%, or a favorable variance of 1.136%. The water fund came in at 96.493%, or a favorable variance of 3.507%. The electric fund came in at 68.381%, or a favorable variance of 31.619%. The sewer fund came in at 93.867%, with a favorable variance of 6.133%. And Pop Whalen came in at 96.777%, or a favorable variance of 3.223%. As far as for the revenues for the year, the general fund brought in a total of $35,833,661.64, which is a favorable variance from 2018 of $470,313.40. The water fund came in so far for 2019 at $1,710,604.96, which is an unfavorable variance of $63,433.64. The electric fund came in at $9,834,218.79, which was an unfavorable variance of $621,537.15 compared to 2018. The sewer fund was $1,704,434.01, which is an unfavorable variance of $205,974.98 when you compare it year over year. Pop Whalen is, if there was an award for coming the closest, they would win it. They came in at $260,120.56, which is $96.59 less than 2018. So, the projection, for revenue on Pop Whalen is now showing that we're getting a really good sense of what we bring in there, as well as now we're going to get a better sense too with the administrative allocation being less for Pop Whalen, and see how we can make an impact going further as we progress on making that fund profitable. For other financial matters that we have going on, the financial audit for year-end 2019 is scheduled, and it's for the weeks of April 13th and April 20th, with being on the docket with the audit presentation to the board in the first week of July. While we're currently at year-end here, we're processing W-2s, 1099s, and then preparing for the 1095-C reporting. While we were preparing the W-2s, we found an opportunity to make substantial gains in efficiency and cutting down on operational risk on inputs. We were able to reduce the amount of manual input significantly on the W-2s, as having more fields designated and being able to map them out in advance. What we're really excited for now is for the 2020 W-2s is really seeing the fruit of our labor. And that's part of what our target is for this year in the department, is to look for those opportunities where we can gain more automation, gain more use of our systems that we currently have in place. On a side note, I've found a business intelligence tool that was, it's a free download and getting free training. So being able to look to produce a little bit more better forecasting, better reporting, and some visuals for the board in the upcoming year of 2020. That's what I have for you.
One of the questions that I had sent to Troy is, I'd like to see what the projected revenues are for 2020. And he's working on that, because that is the other side of this, and we really should see how close we've come in terms of that projection.
Sure.
And Linda was kind enough to send me that the note that you got in your answers, and appreciate both the note and the answers. So one of the things we talked about a while ago was having an opportunity sometime during the year to kind of look around at our enterprise funds. If you look at what you've just presented, Troy, and thanks for doing it, we're up 400 on the general fund on a tax base of 24 million. So it's a small percentage to be up. The rest of the funds, the enterprise funds, are off material amounts. Electric's up and water's down, and these are not trivial amounts. I mean, if you're up by 5%, that's a lot, but these are wide kind of variations. And yes, Pop Whalen wins the closest to the PIN award, being off with 13K on their base, but the base is only 270,000, and we send the money in there. So, Jim, when the time is right, I think we talked about this at the objective setting level. We really need to have kind of just a soaking in how the enterprise funds work, how we track. You've mentioned in some of your writing that there may be some forecasting inaccuracy, a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's time for us to kind of get soaked in that and just see where we are, and if we have to do something with prices, we have to do something with the way we forecast. I mean, I just much rather have it laid on the table, a work session if that's possible, and kind of go at it.
Yeah, and one of the things I was looking at on the electric, you can tell me that we haven't spent as much and then we didn't take in as much revenue. Well, maybe we didn't buy as much electricity, so there's a reason why those...
Exactly.
Without that ability to see them, and that's what I was doing today, to try to put one next to another, and then you start asking the questions, why were we off?
Yeah,
right.
No, it's exactly right. And when I look at your 98,864 and all these other numbers you're giving, I kind of say, I'm not there. I can't figure out where we are. I know that we're not crazy stupid over, but we need to find out why these enterprise funds are probably showing the variability that they are.
Yeah, that's I'd love to, work with the board, because one of the things I'd like to incorporate into your packet, which you don't currently get, is on the monthly reporting for the enterprise funds, for you to actually get the system income statement, right? So you can actually see
Yeah, that would be great.
what that's looking, and that's currently hasn't been in the traditional packet, to the board. I think that would be something to help track, for you guys to track and see that better.
Yeah, and one of the places I pick it up, Brenda will send me out her report, so I can look at the number of bills we sent and something like that. That gives us the whole picture, and I think sometimes when we look at this, the whole picture is better than just a piece of it, which is... So, thank you for answering my questions. I did turn them over to Paul, and
just one last thing, I appreciate the board's support and Jim's support, because I am enrolled in the New Hampshire Government Finance Officers Association Certificate Program, and I have my training locked in, so to complete that program, hopefully by, August of 2020, so excited to be able to complete that.
I did have one, and I think it might have been covered in the first question, but are all the accruals in?
All the accruals are in, yes, for 2019.
They're done.
Yep.
So the books are, the pencils are down on people sending you in open invoices, all of that's done.
Yeah, the last bit of 2019 rolled through this last accounts payable run.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's factored into the 98,864 or not?
That correct is not.
Not.
That's
Okay.
right.
Got it.
But yeah, so there's about 17,000 from the public safety building study, feasibility study that went through. There was $3,400 that was accounted for in the budget for website hosting. That bill finally came in, but there was a couple of small items, but that was it. Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Okay, next is the Milfoil 2020 Exotic Aquatic Plant Control Grant.
this is, I'm on the committee, and I told the chair I could do it for her tonight. Each year, DES gives a grant out to help pay for herbicide and dash work. And we have been granted, let's see here, award up to $2,985 for the herbicide, and for dash work, $4,500. And this is a application, and I believe what we need to is prove that Jim signed the application, and then we'll know for sure what we're going to get and get a check at a later date.
I just need authorization from the board to be able to sign documents related to this grant.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Welcome. You always take money.
Take money. We love money.
Next on our agenda is Lakes Region Model Railroad.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Sims is going to come up, and he's got a letter which is in your package, and he'd like to discuss the letter with the board.
Good evening, Selectmen. This is John Sims from the Lakes Region Model Railroad Museum, and we are applying for a $10,000 grant from the National Trust. They require, if the building does not belong to the museum, they require a letter of consent from the owner of the building. And so I drafted some language and gave it to Jim. I would like to make one word change to that language, because in the first paragraph there's the word "its," which is sort of it's not specific. So I'd like to change that to be "the museum's," and ask for you to approve this letter of consent, and then I'll attach it to the grant request that goes to the National Trust.
Mr. Chairman, question?
Yes.
What's the, what is specifically you applying for? Unrestricted funds, restricted funds? What is it in the grant you're applying for?
It's unrestricted fund. It's restricted to rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation.
Yes. So it's very similar to the LCHIP grant, and so it will be spent on rehabilitation. They will want the funds to be spent within 6 months of the award, and they'll want to report 12 months after the award on what has happened to the funds and how it was spent
Any further restrictions on the rehab, architectural services, or actual construction services? You know, the plan side or the do side?
Nothing on the doing side. There are no restrictions like Davis-Bacon Act or anything of that sort. It just comes in for us to spend as we see fit. There.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
I'm
Anyone
fine.
make a motion to let Jim sign that when it comes?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. May I also take a couple of moments to bring you up to date on the museum? Thank you. At the previous meeting, you asked me a question, Paul, about whether the museum would be contributing to a sinking fund for the repair of the roof and so forth, and I answered yes. I'd like to change that answer to be, it depends on what the lease will say, and leave it up to the negotiation on the lease. I just didn't want to get in the way of the lease for that. You asked about other restrictions on funding. LCHIP and specifically wants a stewardship agreement when all of the work is done and the building has been rehabilitated in accordance with the standards of the Secretary of the Interior. They would like an agreement which would be with the town and with the museum, that any significant changes to the building for a period of time, and I don't know that if this is 5 years, that I have asked the question, do not have an answer yet, will still stay within the requirements of the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. In other words, once it's been rehabilitated, keep it the way it is for a period of time. And they would like, that involves an agreement with the town, which I have not got into yet. It's not due until the work is done. But it'll require an annual report with some photographs showing that things are still the way they are. So that's a thing that comes along.
John, would you mind I know you kind of threw the bad news out at the beginning. What's the rationale for the change?
The rationale for what, Paul?
For the keeping of a sinking fund? And it depends on the lease. Now it depends on the lease agreement?
Well, this is a matter of who is responsible for maintaining the fabric of the building. I mean, if it's a town building, does the town have the responsibility for maintaining roof and exterior, or does the museum have that responsibility? Do we share it? How's that going to work out? So I didn't want to get ahead of the lease discussion, which will happen.
Okay.
The other question I have of you, I sent a letter to you asking if you would attach to the warrant article language the fact that the Selectmen support the language 5-0, and I'm wondering what your decision is on that. Maybe it carries the language, I don't know.
I believe I responded back to you, Mr. Stems, saying that the board was not going to weigh in on petition article. I did advise the board of such, but I felt that they shouldn't be weighing in on this article because they're already authorized as agents to expend the capital reserve fund.
The petition warrant article, as my letter explains, was got to you by mistake. It was intended to be held in reserve. I submitted it for validating the signatures, and I was told that that act causes it to go onto the warrant. If that is a rule of the town, if that is a town regulation or rule, I would like to suggest that be changed so that the act of validating the signatures does not automatically put the warrant onto the article onto the warrant, which then means that we lose the endorsement of the Board of Selectmen. And I feel with the requirement to get to 2/3 that the endorsement by the Selectmen is going to be very important. So if you don't add that language, would you object to my going to the deliberative session and asking that that language be added? Something along the lines of the Board of Selectmen support this language 5-0.
I'm not sure.
I didn't think we could change any wording of the deliberative session. We could only change numbers, and that was it.
No, I think you can, I think we need to get that, but I think you, as long as you don't change the intent of the petition article or an article, you can do it. In terms of checking it, once you hand it in, and that process, that's dictated by an RSA.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's not the town, so once you did that, that triggered it, she recepted it, she had to stamp it, she had
Okay.
to go through a set process that's defined. So that's what happened, and that's why it ended up here as a petition warrant
We
article.
can't change your words. We're not,
Subject matter.
we can't change the wording of your warrant article. You have a petition. Let me just go back if I could. What is the problem you're trying to fix?
To reach the two-thirds majority. That's the problem. And I think that your endorsement is going to add a significant percentage. And I'm told that people will just read down the list of warrant articles, and those that the selectmen endorse, they will say yes, and those that they don't will say no. So I think that your endorsement is very important.
We, I think, have supported this quite a bit along the line here, so I don't see any reason why people wouldn't think that we weren't in favor of it.
Well, if they only see the ballot.
Well,
and
yeah,
that's-
I realize that, and it's just like warrant articles with the planning board. Usually if it's recommended, everybody checks yes.
Yeah.
Not all of us do, but
The unusual thing about this one is that you did, in fact, vote 5-0 to support it when it was a Board of Selectmen originated warrant article.
I think what we voted 5-0 was to put it on the warrant, was what we did. We vote first to put it on the warrant.
Okay.
And then there's a second vote on whether we recommend it. In my understanding, and board members, correct me if I'm wrong, that we voted to put it on the warrant.
yes.
Yeah, there was only one.
There was no money involved in voting. We didn't have to vote for a budget.
Yeah, we aren't required if there isn't any money and I guess that's kind of where we've been. We've got two beach warrant article, petition warrant article, and we had to take the vote on the electric building because it had money in it. And we have, at this point, decided that we were not going to do any petition warrant articles. If we decided to do it on this petition warrant article, then I would like to do it on the other two, but
Right.
treat them all the same.
The other item that I'd like to make clear at this point is these are submitted to DRA for their approval. So this is very last minute.
Okay.
So, John, I think you probably need to find somebody from the Granite State News and do some letter writing. And I think Mr. Chairman is clear all along about, our minutes have been there. And I think that's about as far as we can, at least I think that's about as far as I can go.
Well, I appreciate your considering it. Then we'll just have to persuade everyone.
Keep selling.
Right.
Yep.
And the last thing is that we have a $25,000 matching grant, so I'm asking everybody who is holding back because they didn't think we were going to succeed, that we are going to succeed and step forth and help with the match. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Sean. Okay, next is short-term rental committee appointment nomination. Mr. Matt.
Hello, everyone. Just wanted to say a couple words about this beyond what you had within your packet of information. In response to comments received as part of the 2018/19 master plan process, the planning board formed a short-term rental subcommittee in November of 2019. You can see the membership delineated within the letter that was posted to the town website back in December. That membership was slightly changed last night by the planning board, but no impacts to the Board of Selectmen appointment. They have requested that the Board of Selectmen appoint one member to serve on the committee, particularly because there is a possibility that there will be some recommended ordinance changes that the Selectmen may need to deal with, if any changes at all are recommended as part of the process. Additionally, they felt it was important to have a member of the governing body participating actively in the process because this is such a huge issue within the community. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the committee. The committee has not set any bylaws yet formally, has not really talked specifically about what its charge will be, but we're hopeful that the Board of Selectmen member will be an active participant in that conversation when it happens.
We have a volunteer over here on this.
Can I deny that? No,
Ah,
just kidding.
hey, can I ask a question?
You don't want him?
I'm kidding.
I'm a loved person. Can I ask you a question? Sure. Just ask this sheet. So the scope of the committee,
Yeah.
the bullet points you have here is, just tell me for the public's benefit.
Sure.
What is the scope?
So the committee will focus on several things, and to some extent the committee will also chart its own course when it comes to what policies it would like to write, if any. The committee will start, I think, by talking about what exactly a short-term rental is. Some communities have pretty clearly defined that based on a number of days, weeks, or months, but I think we need to talk about what we're talking about. We also need to talk about the platforms that have made short-term rentals more accessible to the public, because that's obviously a huge issue, whether it be Airbnb, VRBO, or others. That will be a topic of discussion. We'll also be engaging town staff and other experts on the issue, particularly those involved with codes, whether they be fire, building, or the police department, as they do deal with some of the nuisance issues. So collecting input from them that may potentially drive decision-making. Additionally, we'll be engaging community stakeholders. We do have two members of the public that will be serving on the committee that we believe are qualified to do that, and also all of the meetings will be public and we'll have a public comment period, so we do expect that there'll be some input from the public on what their experience has been. But all of that really drives how we understand the scope and the nature of the impact of short-term rentals in the community.
Is the scope of the committee also intended to make recommendations in terms of, I hate to use the words, but I'll use the staff, structure, and enforcement?
I believe that the committee's recommendations may have an impact on staff and enforcement, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
What is the makeup now? It's going to be 2 planning board, 1 board of selectmen, 2
It's going to be
at-large?
three planning board members, 1 member of the Board of Selectmen, 1 member of the Chamber of Commerce, 1 member of the Board of Selectmen, and let me just find my
Any
notes
members
real
at
quick.
large? Like
We just changed this last night.
Right.
We just changed this last night, so I want to make sure I have my notes correct on this. So it will be 1 BOS member,
1 chamber member.
3 planning board members, of which the chair will preside over the meetings, 1 Chamber of Commerce member. Additionally, there will be 3 public members on top of that.
Okay.
So that results in a number of
3 members of the public,
correct.
citizens,
So non-elected officials or appointed
and
officials.
non-chamber.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
How soon will meetings start?
Meetings will start within the next month.
Daytime, evening?
Undecided yet.
Have fun. Have fun. I think this will be a
Linda Linda sent me a note the other day and said, have fun. No, good luck.
good luck, I think.
Sorry, let me clarify
As a
one thing.
last-
I'm realizing now as I go through these numbers. So it is 2 members of the public. I apologize for that misinformation. It's 2 members of the public, Chamber of Commerce, Board of Selectmen, 3 members of the Planning Board. 7 members in total. Sorry, Michelle.
Thanks, Matt.
Right.
You have 1 from here. Good luck.
Okay, so Mr. O'Brien, great. Thank you.
He's going back.
Thank
Back
you.
to his chair. He doesn't like that.
Okay, next on the agenda is cable franchise contract.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. A couple of months ago, this board voted to give Jim and I the opportunity to write a letter to send off to Consolidated Communications and to Atlantic Broadband. And the purpose of that letter was to do kind of what we did with the wireless people, and that is we asked them to show us a map of our town, and we asked them to describe to us how many of our town locations are served by 25 megabits of download speed and 3 megabits of upload speed. And the reason those 2 numbers are important is that's, sadly, the FCC minimum threshold to be deemed served by broadband. It's kind of weird, but that's the numbers. We did receive from Atlantic Broadband, from Consolidated Communications, a report, and that report talks about how many of our residents, how many of our locations in our town are served. I also have a copy of that report for the entire county. I'm not here to disclose the entire county. I'll let the other towns do it. In our town of Wolfeboro, we have 5,647 locations. Of those 5,647 locations, 5,304 locations are unable to qualify for 25 free speeds. That is the report from Consolidated Communications.
Verify.
We also had to remind our good friends at Atlantic Broadband to help us with this report, and back on the, I believe it was the 19th of, when was it, last week, Jim? Was it last week?
Was last Thursday.
Last Thursday. We were visited by the general manager of the New England area from Atlantic Broadband, a gentleman by the name of Ed Merrill. It was a very, very pleasant meeting. Ed Merrill shared with us that inside the town of Wolfeboro, there's 144.37 miles of cable plant. That's the stuff that's on the poles. 35.37 miles of fiber in our town. The cable network passes 4,736 homes or dwellings, and they have 3,656 subscribers. Inside of the report, Mr. Merrill from Atlantic Broadband brought a paper map, probably half the size of the table down there where Jim and Linda and Dave are sitting, laid out all of our streets. Where they do serve, they have the ability to provide far in excess of 25 download and 3 upload. They've identified the streets and the number of homes on the streets where they do not serve. And we know who they are, and Amy Muccio gets a whole bunch of phone calls from people who complain about the fact that they're not served. We have 16 locations on Warren Sands Road, 6 on Stoneham Road, 1 on Chick Bickford, Stoddard Cowper 12, Old Route 28 Center Street 2, and Browns Ridge Road 41. These are locations that Atlantic Broadband says they do not serve. I'll bet there's other locations in the town that people will say, hey, I'm not served. But we have to be careful if you own a house that's 1,500 feet from the pole, you're probably going to get a big bill if you want to have the cable company drag a line into your house. So we are now done with mapping our town. We know wireless, wired, cable. We know exactly, and even through the work of the police department, we know where we stand relative to our radio coverage in the town. It is now time, in my view, for us to start a committee to review the upcoming Atlantic Broadband agreement. An agreement takes place next March, April. And I'd like to do the same thing that Matt just did. I'd like to have some folks come forward, and I'd like to call for a committee. I think the things that we need to consider in this committee for Atlantic Broadband, and I think we need to do it as colleagues, not as adversaries with the company. I think the team should have members who have internet and tech experience, telecom industry leadership, legal, business and utility contract experience would be fun. And we should also not be, unless there's some rule that we can't, I think we also should look for volunteers from outside of our town. I'd recommend a team size of 6 to 8. I think the team should also seek members from Kingswood High School. I think we need to get the kids involved in this stuff. Kids who understand web programming, math, and science. We've got to get them to get some volunteers. And I think the team should create a project outline and brief this Board of Selectmen and the public at least every 6 days. I don't think there should be any incumbent conversations. We shouldn't have people talking to Atlantic Broadband unless they're talking through Jim Pinio. That would be my at least initial thoughts. Here's the things I think we should consider doing with Atlantic Broadband. There should be a thorough review of the current contract. We haven't done that in a while. The team should meet together and come to agreement and understanding as to what the terms and conditions of that contract are. There's a lot of unknowns and suppositions out there that we need to not let take place. The team should ensure that both the town and the incumbent are in compliance on existing terms and conditions of the agreement, most particularly with our Wolfeboro Community TV. We should examine and determine if the payments due to the town as per the contract for Wolfeboro Community TV and the franchise agreements we receive are consistent with what's in the contract. I'm sure they are, but just checking that box might not be a bad idea. Other items such as reporting requirements and service level commitments should be documented. We know that in this town we've had probably not the best service. Some people would say it's great, some people would say it's not so great. We need to write it all down and say, here are the facts as to what we get in terms of quality of service in our town. I sit on a committee with the Carroll County Broadband, and given that there is a larger project going on, we would expect that the incumbent, meaning the Atlantic Broadband, should be providing specific information as to the percentage of the town's population they plan to serve on a going forward basis. The team should research and present best practice opportunities. They should go out and find out how other cable companies do it and do it differently, better, not as good, and they should use that as stuff that would come in front of the contract discussions. These best practices should be based on success. They shouldn't be based on punishment. I'm not a big fan of writing articles where we catch you doing something wrong and we're going to punish you for that. They should be aimed at more deployment, higher network availability, and more pricing options. One of the things we found the other day talking to Ed Merrill is he gets it. He knows that there are more customers that are, quote, cutting the cord and going over the top and getting away from bundled offers and going more towards, I just want Hulu, or I just want Netflix, or I just want Disney. I don't want all the other stuff. I think they get it. I don't know whether they can do anything about it, but I think they get it. Finally, I think the incumbent, Atlantic Broadband, should be an active participant in helping us to bring internet access and economic development to people in this town, including our kids and seniors. Those are two populations we're not paying a lot of attention to, particularly as it relates to the internet. The team should create a set of strategies in this area and work with the town committees, whoever the relevant ones are, to prepare and brief the selectmen. The focus should be on creating a lot of partnerships between the cable provider as well as the public. That's not pie in the sky stuff, folks. That's happening across the United States and rural America. Maybe we should just look out the window and figure out whether we can get that done here. I got a sense that Atlantic wants to do all of that with us. So I'm going to ask Jim and whoever to come back, and maybe we do a paper like Matt. I'll contribute this to you, and I think we should call for some volunteers. I've had 4 people want to sign up already. One of them is sitting up there. I've had 3 other people who've approached me that probably could be good help. So that's where we are. We've got what we need now to sit down and confidently have a conversation with Atlantic about their future and our future here in Wolfeboro. Thank you, sir.
Okay. If anybody is interested, I'm assuming they could contact Jim.
Yep.
Jim,
and I also believe, I know that the website is a little bit difficult to navigate, but I believe under the Selectmen's page of the town's webpage, the current cable franchise agreement is there if anybody would like to peruse that document.
Yep.
Okay, so anybody interested in helping Paul with this? If you go through the town manager's office, we would appreciate it.
So the timeline is start soon, wrap it up probably by this coming January. That's kind of where we are for, all the legal stuff to get done and get it done and executed by the time the contract expires.
Okay, thanks, Paul, for all that.
Sir.
Okay, next on our agenda is U.S. Census Bureau use of the Great Hall for training.
Mr. Chairman, the U.S. Census Bureau has approached us with the upcoming census. They would like to be able to use the Great Hall to host some training, to bring staff on to be able to complete the 2020 census. They're requesting waiving of the $50 fee. They've provided the dates, and it'll be between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. They're having a difficult time finding help in the area to be able to perform the census duties, and they are looking to hire people at a rate of $20 an hour.
And there, all these dates, they want to use
Yep.
And do we know whether we have any events rescheduled in any of those times?
I think during the daytime, we're okay. Amy had run through these dates and
Okay.
thought they were fine,
Okay.
based on the fact that they were going to be done by 4 in the afternoon. And the other item would be, they basically are self-insured, being the government, and we just need to sign as the vendor.
Where do the census people come from? Washington?
Mostly local.
People in charge are local?
Yeah, the field people here are from Concord.
I'll make a motion that we waive the $50 fee for the United States Census Bureau to use the Great Hall.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now the requested dates, Jim, would you just double check, as Linda
We will.
mentioned?
Yep,
And you had said that they're during the day, so they're usually over by 4.
yep.
Yeah, just make sure we don't have anything. If she's
We
done
will
it,
bump
that's
them if-
fine. If not, every once in a while, we get double booked.
Okay. I want to have a motion that it's okay for them to use it for those dates unless we hear differently.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, other business.
Yeah, I have a number of things. I've been kind of, as we meet, we'll say, well, we'll take care of that later. Oh, we'll take care of that later. And I think that we're getting to the point that we need to look at a work session, and maybe a couple. We still need to deal with the Albee Beach access. We were going to put together a committee, or the board is going to look at parking in relationship to the 4th of July and large events. We also had a petition asking us to do some work up on North Main Street on the sidewalks, and Dave Ford was going to do that. I think we should get a report back on that. And we were getting reports every quarter on our capital projects, and in the transition, that seemed to kind of fall by the wayside. Those capital project reports are what really report to us on how our warrant articles, our big projects, are going along. It gives us an opportunity to know where they are, where they're going, and that's the kind of questions I get a lot from the people. Where are you on the bridge? Where is that? So I would really, and as I looked, the last time we got it in is October. It seems like in the beginning of February it'd be nice to know whether we've cleaned up those projects and where we are before the next ones come in. So I find that a very important document, and I would like to get that back on track. The other thing is, I would really think it might be to our advantage to do a wedding policy. You know, what we require for parking, what size wedding, how many people will we, allow at different places. We used to get weddings that were about 10 to 20 people, maybe 30. Now we're getting 125. Benches, chairs. Are there parks we don't want to have weddings in? Are there dates that we'd never think of putting a wedding in? Well, I wouldn't put one in Cate Park on the 4th of July. And the need to have insurance policy. It would be nice for Amy to have that, be able to say, these are what they're going to ask you, and have it set. So that was another one that I was hoping that we could work on. The other thing is I would like to tell the public that on February 4th at 7 p.m. here in the Great Hall will be the deliberative session. Then on February 11th, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. will be the federal primary elections taking place. And on March 10th, from 8 to 7, will be the town elections again here in the town hall. And that's all I have.
That's quite a bit.
Jim,
Oh, you got a bunch
how
of
about Ricky?
Anybody else have any other business? Committee reports? Linda, you want to start?
I went to the Chamber Executive Board meeting. I was at a couple of Budget Committee meetings. I went to the Chamber Social. A bunch of us went to the Election Rule Seminar here in the Great Hall. We had an EDC meeting, and we had a long discussion about short-term rentals. And I also had a last night Wolfeboro meeting.
David?
None for me.
Okay, I had a ZBA meeting. Most of us we presented the Boston Post-Cane. It was a budget hearing.
I did that too.
We did taping of the articles for this year's town meeting. Are they on the website now? Tim, are they on 20? Okay, they're out next week. Linda mentioned we went to election classes, and I also went to a police commission meeting, which was interesting.
I had I think it was day of our last meeting here. We had our Wolfeboro Community TV annual meeting, so I think I did report that 2 weeks ago. Also had a Friends of Libby Museum meeting, which basically was a discussion on the Libby restoration warrant article. Last night I did miss the planning board meeting because we had our public hearing for the bond warrant articles with the budget committee last night here. And as Dave said, we all got together for the taping of the warrant articles. It was last week, right? Or the week before?
Yes, last week.
Last week. That was it for me.
Paul?
taping of the warrant articles. I also was there for the presentation of the Boston Post-Cane. It was fun. Went to the rules seminar for the elections. We've had budget committee meetings. Thankfully, they are now closed. Member mingle the other day with Linda. And I agree, by the way, if I could, I agree with there's some things we need to have. There's some tactical stuff that we kind of remind ourselves during minutes, and those we got to get better at. But the big items, and I think the chief took this one, we got to get some texture around the parking situation for 4th of July, Part 2, whatever that will be. And I think those are important things to do. Thanks.
Okay, town manager's report.
A few items, Mr. Chairman. First, with regards to the seawall down to the Libby, we have to renew the shoreline permit on that. So that's what has been holding up the work. So that is in process. Mr. Ford had met with some stakeholders regarding the snow machine trail. That's still a work in progress, but if that happens, we may have to move that back over to the other side of the street instead of onto the railroad side of the street. And that's because of some drainage issues and whatnot. One of the stipulations that he's working on is if they do create that between the curb and the path, they will keep a trough for water to be able to run as that begins to melt. The budget and warrant articles are all loaded into DRA. We're currently awaiting approval. You have a draft in front of you this evening as to what that looks like, and we're waiting to hear back from them. As you probably are all aware, we experienced some damage in the building here on Monday. Fortunately, somebody came into the building, observed water running in the building, determined it to be a coil in the chiller up in the attic space. We were able to isolate the leak. However, the damage had been done. Servpro came in, did their work. There's some sheetrock and some insulation which needs to be removed. That work is actively taking place. It's going to be a little while before that unit is back up and operational. And we will probably be coming in front of this board asking for some funds out of the Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund to pay for the replacement coil and possibly some associated work with that. Unfortunately, I think probably everybody's heard at this point as well, Ricky LaPointe, a long-term employee with the town, passed away. Calling hours for Rick are scheduled for tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 6 at Lord's Funeral Home, and the funeral is scheduled for Friday at 2 p.m. at Calvary Church on Mill Street. Town offices will be closing at 1:30 Friday afternoon, so that staff has the opportunity to attend those services. And the only other thing that I would have for you is we've started the voter's guide, so anticipate a rough draft for the February 5th Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the press?
Make sure to mention your final list of warrant articles so that I think it would have to come in next week. Thursday means I would need it by Tuesday. But, so they've been sent to DRA.
DRA has the warrant articles right now.
Well,
We can give you a draft of the warrant articles.
She can just take
Well,
mine.
it's the final draft.
Here you go.
It just doesn't have the stamp of approval.
Yeah, and it's
He's going to send
for all intents and purposes, they're just going through, making sure that technically they're all correct.
Okay. And this will be online, or is it under the town clerk's?
It's not yet. The hopes are that we will get something online, yes.
You wanted a Microsoft Word probably, right?
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, yeah, that's okay.
We can send it to
Actually,
you
that would be nice.
electronically if you'd like.
Okay. Sure, that'd be great.
Your deadline is Tuesday?
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, we have to have it signed by Monday, so.
Okay, next is public input. Limited to 3 minutes per resident, not to exceed 15 minutes. Anybody?
Suzanne Ryan. So when does the warrant have to be posted? Did I understand Monday?
Monday.
Okay, thank you. Since the 2019 operating budget is closed, have you handled all your transfers and your encumbrances?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a few outstanding purchase orders, pending contracts, but there's nothing new that is coming in.
And I'd like to compliment Mr. O'Brien on his presentation for the committee he'd like to see established. I've always been an advocate for marching orders for committees that are established in town, and you seem to have set up quite an organization as to how you'd like it to proceed.
Oh, shucks.
And then the other thing is the selectmen usually set their work agenda for the coming year. And Linda, you touched upon some of the ideas. And I think you know I've been advocating for a 10-year building maintenance plan. And I would like to see very much that idea at least put in place. I'm not saying that you have to hire somebody, you don't have any money, but I think you need to start ironing out what it would look like and what you would like to see. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that Matt has started a rough draft for this building.
Yeah.
So we have kind of captured some of that, Suzanne, within the scope of the work that'll be done to evaluate the Public Works program. That's all.
Anybody else? Okay, I'd like a motion to go into non-public, please.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes.